She was 7 days postpartum, her body still healing, her daughter barely a week old. And on that 7th night, when she walked into her own bedroom, she found her husband and her mother in a position no woman should ever have to witness. What she did next would end with sirens, screaming, and a baby left without the protection she deserved. It was just past midnight when officers arrived at the small home on Maple Street. The first officer through the door heard it immediately. A baby crying upstairs, that desperate, hungry wail that cuts through everything else. The living room was in chaos. A lamp overturned, picture frames shattered on the hardwood floor, baby toys scattered everywhere. In the kitchen doorway, they found the husband, 32-year-old Michael, slumped against the wall with blood trailing from a gash above his eyebrow. In the master bedroom, they found the mother-in-law, 56-year-old Patricia, sitting on the edge of the bed, her hands shaking, a bruise forming on her collarbone. And standing in the corner, still holding the cordless phone, was the wife, 28-year-old Sarah. Her eyes were empty, hollow. The officers would later describe the scene as suffocating, like walking into a room where something sacred had been violated. One officer noted the faint scent of baby powder mixed with something metallic, blood, but also fear. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. The 911 call came in at 12:47 a.m. The dispatcher later said it was one of the strangest calls she'd ever taken because of how calm Sarah sounded. Too calm, almost emotionless. The dispatcher asked the standard questions, and Sarah answered each one with precision. Yes, people are hurt. Yes, send an ambulance. No, I'm not in danger anymore. But then the dispatcher asked, "Ma'am, what happened? Can you tell me what happened?" There was a long pause. Then Sarah spoke, her voice dropping to a whisper. "My baby. She could have died. They left her alone crying in her crib while they did what they did. She needed me, and they were too busy betraying me to hear her." The dispatcher pressed gently. "What did they do, ma'am?" Sarah said something that would be replayed in court months later. "You'll see. When you get here, you'll understand. Some betrayals don't deserve forgiveness." Sarah grew up as an only child to Patricia and a father who left when Sarah was 4. Patricia never remarried. She poured everything into Sarah, but not in a healthy way. She was possessive, controlling. She'd read Sarah's diary, listen in on phone calls, show up uninvited to school events. As Sarah got older, she realized something was deeply wrong with their relationship. She felt suffocated, watched, like she could never be her own person. When Sarah met Michael at 23, it felt like a lifeline. He was kind, steady, made her feel safe. They married within a year, and Sarah thought she'd finally escaped her mother's grip. But Patricia didn't let go. She called daily, showed up at their apartment without notice, inserted herself into every decision. Michael, trying to keep peace, always let her in. Sarah saw her mother trying to reclaim control, trying to wedge herself between Sarah and the life she was building. But she stayed quiet. She swallowed her discomfort. Because that's what you do when you love someone. When Sarah got pregnant, everything shifted. For the first time, she felt a purpose that had nothing to do with pleasing her mother or keeping her husband happy. This baby was hers. The first trimester was rough, but she was genuinely happy. Michael seemed excited too at first, but as months passed, he became distant. He'd come home late without explanation. He'd spend hours on his phone texting someone. Patricia became even more overbearing. She insisted on coming to every doctor's appointment. She'd show up unannounced with opinions Sarah didn't want. She'd touch Sarah's belly without permission, whispering things like, "This baby is going to change everything. She'll need me more than she'll need you." Sarah tried to set boundaries, but Patricia would cry and accuse Sarah of being ungrateful, and Michael would tell Sarah to ease up, saying her mother just wanted to help. Sarah felt like she was losing her mind. She'd lie awake wondering if she was the problem. But deep down, She knew something wasn't right. Sarah went into labor 3 days early. After 18 hours, Emma arrived, and Sarah felt a love so overwhelming it nearly broke her. But Patricia insisted on staying at the house to help. Sarah didn't want her there, but Michael sided with Patricia. So Patricia moved into the guest room and took over. She'd wake up before Sarah to feed Emma. She'd criticize everything Sarah did. Michael would come home, eat Patricia's dinner, and disappear, leaving Sarah alone with her mother and a newborn she barely got to bond with. 6 days after Emma was born, Sarah fell asleep on the couch while Patricia held the baby. When she woke up an hour later, Emma was screaming in her crib upstairs, and Patricia and Michael were nowhere to be found. Sarah rushed upstairs, soothed her daughter, then heard voices downstairs. Low, intimate. She crept to the kitchen doorway and saw them. Patricia standing close to Michael, too close, her hand on his arm. She was wearing Sarah's bathrobe, the silk one Michael had bought for their anniversary. She was looking at him in a way that made Sarah feel like an intruder in her own home. When they saw Sarah, guilt flashed across Michael's face. Patricia just smiled. Both acted like nothing was wrong, like Sarah was overreacting. But Sarah knew. Something was deeply, fundamentally wrong. Over the next few days, Sarah paid attention. She noticed how Patricia touched Michael's shoulder when she passed him, how she'd laugh too loudly at his jokes. She noticed Michael's phone lighting up at odd hours with texts from Mom. She noticed them whispering in the hallway late at night. One night, Michael left his phone on the bathroom counter while he showered. Sarah had never been the kind to snoop, but her gut told her to look. The messages from Mom went back weeks, starting during her pregnancy. At first they seemed innocent, but then they got strange. Patricia texting at 2 or 3 a.m. saying, "Are you awake? I can't stop thinking about earlier." Michael responding, "We can't keep doing this. She'll find out." Patricia, "She doesn't need to know. This is between us." There were photos, too. Patricia in lingerie, standing in the guest bedroom. A caption, "Do you like it?" Michael's response, "You know I do, but we have to be careful." Sarah felt sick. She sat on the edge of the bathtub, staring at the phone, trying to make sense of it. Her mother, her husband, the two people who were supposed to love her had been carrying on some kind of relationship behind her back. Something inside her broke that couldn't be fixed. The next day, Sarah decided to leave. She'd pack a bag and drive to a hotel. But before she could, Patricia came into the nursery where Sarah was folding Emma's clothes. Patricia stood in the doorway and said something Sarah would never forget. "You're not enough for him, you know. You never have been. He needs someone who understands him, someone who can give him what you can't." Sarah asked what she was talking about. Patricia smiled and said, "You know exactly what I'm talking about. Michael and I have something special, something you could never understand. And if you try to take him away from me, you'll regret it." That night around 1 a.m., Sarah heard footsteps in the hallway. Then Patricia's voice, sing-song, "Michael, are you awake?" Sarah watched in horror as Michael got out of bed and left the room. She crept to the door and peeked out. Michael and Patricia were at the end of the hallway. Patricia had her hand on his chest, whispering something. Michael wasn't pulling away. Something snapped inside Sarah. She walked down the hallway and said, "Get your hands off my husband." Patricia turned, smiling. "Or what? What are you going to do, Sarah?" She didn't move her hand. Sarah said, "I want you out of my house, now." Patricia laughed. "This is as much my house as it is yours. Michael wants me here. Don't you, Michael?" And Michael hesitated. Sarah grabbed her phone and keys. She went to the nursery and started packing Emma's diaper bag. She was leaving right then. But Patricia followed and blocked the doorway. "You're not taking that baby anywhere," Sarah said. "She's my daughter. Get out of my way." Patricia crossed her arms. "She needs stability, not a mother who's falling apart. Michael and I can give her that. You can't." Sarah stepped forward. "You will never touch my daughter again." Michael appeared behind Patricia, putting his hand on her shoulder. "Sarah, you're being irrational. Just calm down." Sarah pushed past them, Emma in her arms, heading for the stairs. Patricia grabbed her arm hard enough to bruise. "You're not going anywhere." Sarah yanked free and spun around. Standing at the top of the stairs with her daughter and her mother's hand reaching for her, Sarah shoved Patricia. Not hard, just enough to get her to let go. But Patricia was too close to the stairs. She stumbled backward and fell 3 or 4 steps, hitting her shoulder hard on the banister. Michael rushed to help her, shooting Sarah a look of pure betrayal. Sarah just stood there, Emma in her arms, watching it unfold. Patricia sat on the steps, sobbing, cradling her shoulder. Michael hovered over her. Sarah walked calmly to the living room and called 911. When police arrived, they found Patricia crying, saying Sarah attacked her. Michael backed her up, and Sarah sitting quietly with her daughter, not saying a word. The officers took statements. One asked Sarah what happened. She told the truth, all of it, the texts, the betrayal, the push. She didn't justify or downplay it. The officer asked, "Did you intend to hurt her?" Sarah looked at Emma and said, "I intended to protect my daughter." They arrested Sarah that night. Emma was placed in temporary protective custody. Sarah was taken to the station, booked, and placed in a holding cell. She'd lost everything, but she'd also done something she should have done years ago. She'd finally stood up for herself. The case went to trial 6 months later. Patricia and Michael testified against Sarah, but her lawyer presented the text messages, the timeline, the pattern of manipulation that had gone on for years. The jury found Sarah guilty of assault, but the judge showed leniency. He sentenced her to probation and counseling, citing extreme emotional circumstances. Emma was returned to Sarah's custody. Michael and Patricia got supervised visitation only. Sarah moved to a different state with her daughter. She started therapy. She rebuilt her life, and she never looked back. But here's the question. Was Sarah wrong? Was she justified? If you'd been in her shoes, if you'd seen what she saw, discovered what she discovered, felt what she felt at the top of those stairs, what would you have done? Would you have walked away? Or would you have done exactly what she did? Tell us in the comments. And if this story gripped you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more powerful, real-life stories every week. Because we never really know what we're capable of until we're pushed to our absolute limit.